You need to pay close attention to the titles and other textual descriptions of each of these pieces, because that will guide you to an appropriate interpretation of the musical notation. In this case, we have two operatic references, the title of Recitative and the tempo as Adagio Drammatico. If you keep that in mind as you perform this piece, it will and should impact the way you play it. The same goes for each of the pieces in the set. Most of the pieces benefit greatly from the fundamental practice of counting out loud when you are preparing them. For this one, it is essential. Set your metronome to beat the eighth note at 98 and count sixteenths. There are many errors in the published score for this piece and in most of the others as well. It pays to compare the published score with the manuscript and make the appropriate corrections. Note that some of the differences between the published score and the manuscript may not be errors, but rather further edits by the composer. You will have to use your judgment to determine which is which. Here is an example with the same measure from the published score on top and the manuscript on the bottom. Just as an aside about this particular manuscript, Carter reworked some of the pieces he had originally composed 8 years earlier by adding extended techniques. That is what you see in Carter's hand, marking up the earlier published version. So red arrows indicate a missing tie in the newer published version, and the pink shaded marks in the manuscript show what didn't make it into the published version. The climax of this crescendo should be precisely on the fourth beat, not a 32nd note later, where the F for forte appears. Also on this slide, try to make the harmonics sing out in a clearly distinguished way from the normal notes, and carefully muffle the rests, since the metric rhythmic silence is a critical part of the piece. This is not always the case with orchestral timpani playing, but here it is. Here is another example of the same concept. The G sharp, C sharp, and D should be muffled in the same rhythm of the quintuplets that precede the muffles, while the A sharp is muffled on the second 16th note of the fourth beat. So I count this measure: 1 quintuplet, 2 quintuplet, 3 quintuplet, 4 E and A, to be able to place the muffles accurately. It is difficult to achieve a consistent twangy rim sound even while focusing just on that and playing on one drum. But when you are moving from drum to drum in a fast and soft dynamic, it becomes nearly impossible. You can maximize your odds, however, by playing the rim sound right near the beating spot on all of the drums and not at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock where the drums are closest. Here's why. This diagram shows that playing right in front of you increases by at least threefold the tolerancy for accuracy to get a distinguishable twangy rim sound. If you play where the drums are closest, a small error on the right to left placement yields a wildly different sound regarding rim versus normal playing. The 11-note pattern, marked with accenti ben marcati, deserves some comment. First of all, to get the right speed, on the third beat in the first measure in this slide, start counting eighth note triplets. Then just play a triplet for each one of those triplet eighths. That is your speed. Maintain that speed no matter how the meter changes. Regarding sticking, you can either execute the passage with a double left between the A sharp to G sharp per 11-note group, or, alternating throughout, with some big time crossing, which reverses the sticking every 11-note grouping. I do the latter. Whichever sticking you choose, practice the 11-note pattern until it is second nature, then add the accents and dynamics. To get the muffling right in the 9/32 measure, count a dotted 16th beginning on the last accented note of the 18/32 measure. Then count your 2 16th note muffles, followed by another dotted 16th rest. So counting numbers on the 30 seconds, you could count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, leading you into the 14/32 measure that follows.